I decided to try and give this video another try. I'm gonna continue from where I left off. I got about an hour. Obviously, I'm not gonna finish it. Honestly, I don't think I can finish it. But you know, if I take it in like small bites, maybe in like a month, I'll be able to get through all of it. Alright, back to Discount Destiny. Talking about Ethan Klein getting stuff wrong, even though so far not really, but okay.
Let's ask you a question. Let's ask your audience a question.
Please ask.
Do you think it's appropriate for people who have committed genocide against Palestinians for 80 years?
Well, first you have to come to the actual conclusion that they did commit genocide, which in many people's opinion, that is not the case. Obviously, the vocal terrorist supporters are adamant that there has been genocide in Israel. You know, so first, okay, you gotta assume, like, we gotta get to that conclusion that there's actually been genocide. But yeah, go ahead.
At this point, I'm calling it genocide for those entire 80 years, by the way, because you called Xinjiang genocide. If you're going to call that a genocide, then
Again, well, I've been over this. What the, you know, like, I'm not gonna get into it again.
I can call that what you and your other Israeli friends do a genocide as well, because you've been doing way worse for way longer. So I'm just using your own standards here, my friend. Do you think it's appropriate to hold like a drugged up rave outside of a concentration camp where you keep the victims who were expelled so you can have your land and house? Do you think that I should have sympathy and empathy for those people? I don't. I won't. I never will. And if that hurts your feelings, if that makes you feel alienated from the movement, then get the fuck out. Simple.
This is actually where I quit the last video. If you're interested in my response to this lunatic for this for this specific thing, just watch the last video and go all the way to the end, like maybe the last 10 minutes, maybe the last 5 minutes. So yeah, I'm not gonna do that again here.
Succinct, what needs to be said. This is the equivalent of like the Nazis holding a dance party outside Auschwitz on the day that like there was an attempted prisoner breakout and acting like it was the worst atrocity in the world when they get attacked. It's generally just
absolutely zero equivalence, but okay.
It's crazy, the reversal of victim and offender here. You know what you do if you don't want to be attacked by the victims who you have imprisoned in a concentration camp for 80 years? The people whose parents, whose grandparents are from the very land that you're holding that rave on, that you expelled them from? You know how you avoid that? You don't live on the land that you expelled them from. How about you don't expel them and imprison them in the first place? How about you don't periodically...
No, you know how you do it based on his solution? You just end your own life. What Israel should do is commit mass suicide, clearly. So all the Israelis and all the Jews and all the Arabs who already live there just like cease to exist, right? So then the Palestinians can like go in and reclaim the land because fuck everyone else, right? That is his solution. That is his solution. And you know why that's his solution? Because where do you want the Jews to go? They were literally kicked out, as Ethan later brings up. They were literally kicked out from all the Arab countries where they used to live, and they had nothing to do with Israel aside from them being Jewish. Okay, they were kicked out of those countries, and then they migrated to Israel because that is the only place that would accept them unconditionally. So now you want them to do what exactly? You want to blame someone that there's so many Jews there? Well, let's also blame the Palestinians that that caused this scenario. Oh, victim blaming. I mean, it goes both ways.
Bomb them for 80 years. How about you don't massacre them and their children? How about you don't keep them impoverished with a genocidal blockade that leaves all of them helpless, with nothing left in their lives except joining a resistance group and hoping to get revenge? You are so out of touch with reality. So disgustingly out of touch.
A resistance group. I love it.
And ultimately, no, I don't think you're out of touch with reality. I think that what you're doing here is attempting to defend the privileges that you have. The privileges that the state of Israel gives to you and yours by trying to frame people like you as victims of your victims. And it's disgusting.
But nobody has seen this coming.
I mean, that's insane, right?
Why is that insane?
I don't even... Yeah, okay. Like,
okay.
I don't...
Why is that insane? Why is this insane? This is a pretty decently big rally happening on October 7th. Now, Israel is 7 or 8 hours ahead right? So when this is happening in Israel, well, I think it was like middle of the night, take like 8 hours back, so it would be like 4 p.m. ish, in New York, right? Because New York has the same time as where I live in Toronto. So basically, it would be about 3. I don't remember the exact time, but 8 hours before that, right? So if it happened 10 p.m., then at 2 p.m. in New York, they would know about it. Okay, so that's why it's still bright. So what's insane is, first of all, the scenario that in such in such a small amount of time, this amount of people managed to gather up to unite behind Hamas, which is, again, and this is in New York, and they are supporting a group that is designated, forget by the whole world, by the US as a terrorist organization. Do this in any other country that doesn't have Western values, supporting a group that is actively saying death to your country, and show me what happens to the people who do that. But besides the point, I'm just defending America here, okay? And like how good these assholes have it, okay? Besides the point. The reason this is crazy is, first of all, they create the crowd. Second of all, the corpses are still wet. People are still being killed at this moment. These guys are celebrating. We don't even know any details yet. We just know that Hamas invaded and just massacred the people at the music festival. And these people are celebrating it without knowing any details. It's like, imagine 9/11 happens and you're watching it, and while the buildings are going down, you're already cheering for Al-Qaeda or whatever, or like whoever did it, whatever you want to imagine, doesn't matter. Bin Laden, I know you didn't know it at the time, right? That it was Bin Laden, whatever, it was known later. But like, imagine the buildings are just starting to fall, and you're like, yeah, Bin Laden, let's go, fuck the US, while people are actively dying. That is fucking vile behavior. And this is vile behavior if this happens in countries that I don't even like. Let's say Iran is suffering from this, and only the bad people in Iran, like the ones who support terrorists, are suffering. I would not be cheering in the street while they are dying. I could cheer maybe a few days later and be like, a good thing that it's over, but I'm not going to be cheering while people are actively dying, let alone these are civilians who are dying. It's not like a war is actively happening. It's not like soldier versus soldier. These are civilians dying, and these people are cheering civilians dying. Why is this bad?
That's insane. And it's disgusting.
But nobody has seen this coming.
I mean, that's insane, right?
Why is that insane?
I don't even. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I don't.
Just criticizing people. You don't have to comment if you're not comfortable about it.
I honestly felt at times that he and his audience barely thought of Israelis as humans.
This dude just called baby
Like, you guys saw the clips that I played at the beginning, right? He thinks Palestinians are it.
these militants.
No, I understand, and there are baby settlers as well. Wait, there are baby settlers.
No, I saw the beginning. No, he doesn't consider Palestinians as it. He's one of the Jews that I don't like the most because he's supporting Palestinians too much, in my opinion. Just saying. Like, emotionally, that is. Logically, I'm a very logical person. I'm detaching my emotions from the scenario, and I'm using very cold logic to understand what the solution needs to be for the indefinite success of peace in that region. It is not you don't want me directing the army, let's just say it like that. I understand that, but I'm telling you just how I feel. I don't know if I would consider what I would do war crimes, but I would not be holding back. Right? Enough is enough. But I'm a logical person. If I see a problem, I remove the problem.
As well, there are babies in the settlements.
Part of running defense for Hamas is...
It's crazy that you would even bring that clip up, given that you support the existence of Israel, which is verifiably a baby killer state. Like, the proportion of babies killed by Israel is...
Doesn't matter even if what he says right now is true, I know I'm pausing a lot, like, but like this guy is just so fucking crazy with his statements. It's just fucking, I can't just like not respond. Even if, let's say, Ethan is okay with the thought, because it's not reality, that Israel is actively going out of the way to kill babies. Even if that were the case, it is still not okay for anyone to kill babies. It is, regardless of everything, the statement as a whole, it is not okay to kill babies. You can call him a hypocrite if you want, but that doesn't change the fact that Hassan just said baby settlers, so they are a target.
Is obscenely ridiculous. Children in general killed by Israel in Gaza, something like 33%. Babies, something like 15, 25%. Like, you gotta be kidding me, Ethan. That's the...
Okay, so that is completely not true. Children, okay, so if children are 33%, okay, just think about like how crazy that sounds. Okay, so if children are 33%, right, of which 25% are babies, because children and babies go into the same category. Okay, that means that these guys are reproducing at a faster rate, like at such a fast rate that the other children, so what is a baby, right? What's the category of baby? Let's say up to 4 years old, even though technically like probably like 2 is a baby, up to 2. Right, but let's even say up to 4 years old. So you're telling me from 4 to 18, you have more babies. You have, sorry, not more, but it's like half of your population of children, because like, 25% are babies and 33%. So it's like technically 2/3 of your population of children that are being killed are babies. 2/3 of the population of like the children, right, are babies. That they can't be reproducing that fast. Where are all the other kids then? If they have nowhere to go, right? Because like obviously like Israel prevented them from going anywhere, right? They're just like locked in their place, and then they just sit at home, and then they get bombed. What, did they just gather all the babies in one spot? Like, what is this logic? What are the other kids doing then? Oh, like all the 4 to 18 years old. Where are they? Right? And then it's like, let's assume that 33% of the people who are being killed are children, right? And then what's the statistic for women and men then? Where are all the men then? Are they like, are they in the tunnels? Why aren't the kids in the tunnels then? We know that there are tunnels in Gaza. Why didn't they bring the kids in the tunnels to protect them? Especially when Israel is sending flyers that we are going to be bombing this area. Get the fuck out. Why aren't the kids going into the tunnels? Why aren't they saving the kids? So again, this whole like, oh, they're killing babies. It's like they're not going out of their way. Okay, these babies are, if the statistics are even true, which I highly doubt they're not. I highly doubt they are, right? I highly doubt that these statistics are true. But even if they are, where are the adults trying to save these children by moving them into tunnels who are connected all over Gaza? Right? You can use the tunnel to go from literally like the northern part of Gaza all the way to the southern part of Gaza, underground, away from bombs. What are we doing here? What is the logic behind this statistic?
The worst, that's the best that you got?
Downplaying the violence, specifically the sexual violence, which he's done a lot of.
The sexual violence, Ethan. First off, we're going to watch this and we're going to see if he provides any evidence for this supposed sexual violence on October 7th.
Matter if fucking rapes happen on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much.
Bro. So he also doesn't believe that there was any sexual violence. Right? All the women that they kidnapped, they actually treated them like princesses. Yeah, there's no sexual violence.
What's wrong with that clip?
So that's the other part of this problem that many people can't contend with. Like, the Palestinian resistance is not perfect. They're not like so good. They have magical bullets.
Okay, firstly, what he was saying there clearly is that if someone was raped on October 7th, that would not justify the Gaza genocide. That's what he was saying.
You can view it that way. Sure, I'll be super fucking generous. You can view it that way.
2, are you going to provide any evidence of these supposed rapes? Because if not, you're going to get brutalized in a second here.
The Palestinian resistance is not perfect. They're not like so good. They have
just rapid fire a bunch of headlines uncritically. Do not provide any analysis of yourself. Just this definitely happened. This definitely 100% happened. Trust me.
magical bullets. It's not perfect.
Witness says, like, just look at this shit. Ethan provides zero analysis.
don't believe any witnesses, don't believe any victims. Only believe the group that is the most reliable in this scenario, Hamas.
This is not even an attempt to form an argument of this mass rape narrative. This is, by the way, straight up blood libel propaganda against Palestinians. There is no evidence of even one person being raped. Let's see in a second. He's going to move on.
No evidence at all, except all the women that were released and say that they were raped. And I believe some of them, like, obviously they all get examined by doctors when they come back. And I'm pretty sure doctor examinations also proved that they were raped. So, but there's no evidence. Fuck it, yeah. Also, logic has left the fucking building. Men have been raping women for the better part, not even better part, since forever. And you think these people who consider Jews as subhuman, just based on their beliefs, right? They consider Jews as subhuman, would not rape the women captive, the women that they captured. Well, has there ever been any force in human history where the warring men, right, the men who go to war, captured women and no woman was raped? Has there ever been a situation like that? I highly doubt it. Because you know the kind of people, the kind of men you need at war. You know what kind of men go to war. The ones who are like, you know, like, yeah, let's go, let's fucking fight. You know what kind of men they are. I'm not saying all of them, but let's be real, there's definitely some of them there.
Trying to explain any of this, and I'm just going to play a clip that I already made in the past that debunks this narrative.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, if you compare the raw numbers, Gazans have lost a lot more than
So firstly, as I went over earlier, Ethan himself is a denier of actual verified rapes admitted to by the Israeli state. So it's kind of weird that he would claim that someone else is a rape denier by playing a clip where what Hassan actually said is that even if there were rapes on October 7th, that obviously would not justify genocide in Gaza. Do you disagree with that? If anything, Hassan is...
That's not what Hassan said. Hassan said that even if there were rapes happening, then yeah, it doesn't change his opinion about Israel and Gaza. Sure, that is fine. Okay, like the situation is that much worse that rapes are not even the equation. However, later on, he went to say that Hamas are not perfect. So that is to justify the rapes. They're not perfect, guys. They rape. That's okay.
Is way too conciliatory because there's no evidence of even a single rape or sexual assault on October 7th. And that is a fact. Again, I'm going to play a clip here of Ethan Klein, rape denial. Straight up rape denial. Based on his feelings.
Frankly, there wasn't much else other than like sporadic, isolated, unconfirmed, kind of nebulous...
Again, I agree with you that if he doesn't believe... If Ethan believes that Israelis don't rape Palestinians, that is also kind of like, bro, of course, like there are shitty people everywhere. Yes, of course, there are, what do you call it? Like prison guards that rape prisoners. Like, of course, this happens. Okay, it's like you have psychos everywhere. You have people with mental fucking problems everywhere that have like this fucking God complex or whatever, like a power trip, and like nothing shows more power than you dominating another man or a woman, whatever. Like, these people exist. So all you're calling here is the hypocrisy, sure, but you're not saying anything about his argument. All you're doing, like literally an hour in, vast majority of it, except for one example that I talked about in the first one, where sure, Ethan hyperbolized something. Everything so far for an hour is just character assassination, talking about like, oh, Ethan Klein is a hypocrite. But the argument is not wrong. He also didn't provide proof that there were no rapes. He just says there's like, well, no one proved that there were rapes. Meanwhile, plenty of victims, plenty of witnesses that say that they saw it happen. Yeah, like, no, but they're like, don't believe them because they're clearly on the side of Israel, so clearly they're lying.
Accusations, and I'm not...
That's literally the sort of thing that Ethan is accepting uncritically in terms of October 7th. He's such a fucking little slimeball.
saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying, like, this one article is
Talk
the
about
only
slime balls.
real significant one that I could find.
he You can't find anything. You don't even know how to use Google. You're 40 years old and you can't do basic research, and YouTube's your job. Anyway, I'm going to play a clip from a video that I made before, and this is me going over...
Again, YouTube is his job. He makes content. he makes content. He doesn't research content. He should hire people to research content. But clearly, if he's doing it live and that's not his thing, then okay, sure. I'm being very generous here towards Ethan, but it's like this whole argument, again, just character assassination. There's absolutely nothing in this argument that tells me anything. I don't know how to do my research on Google. I Google some stuff. I checked like the first few links. I don't know if the links are reliable or not. And I just take that. It's like, okay, cool, whatever, right? It's like Google recommended this, I'll take it, right? Maybe go to DuckDuckGo to see like maybe something less Google biased or like, you know, whatever. But like, it's not his job to do research. He's a content creator. He makes like fucking funny movies, funny videos. Well, used to. And he sits on a podcast, talks to like people. Like, what?
A supposed UN report on rapes on October 7th and the evidence contained within it, which explains precisely how and why there is no evidence of any rapes on October 7th. Because there is little to no evidence that it actually happened. The evidence is incredibly sketchy. All of it comes...
Nothing shows you're more credible than showing a video of yourself. There's nothing more credible. You know who else is a very credible source? You know the guy who created... who made a whole like wiki post about Yasuke, and he linked himself as the source, like the books that he wrote about Yasuke in Assassin's Creed, the samurai one, whatever, I don't even care. I don't remember the name. So the whole character of Yasuke is based on the research that this person did, and in the wiki, his research is based on himself, on the books that he wrote. Nothing says you're more credible than showing you talking about something you talked about. Very credible.
Exclusively from a few, very few, individual witness testimonies, most of which are highly inconsistent with later accounts.
However, I'm going to give him like a big fucking compliment. It is actually very impressive that he remembers the minutes, the name of the video, the approximate minute of when he's talking about something. It is actually really impressive. That is fucking phenomenal. Like, honestly, good for him. That is crazy. That is a skill. That is insane.
None of these testimonies corroborate each other. There has never been any forensic evidence presented that corroborates any of them. Many of the people who give these testimonies have intimate links to the Israeli state. For example, they are from organizations like Zakat, which works very intimately with the Israeli state. Other testimonies only surfaced far later as part of carefully timed propaganda blitzes by the Israeli state. To put it simply, there is no evidence whatsoever that these testimonies are not simply made up, and they have been utilized by the Israeli state because they simply have no other corroborating evidence. And this is very weird, given that...
because... In what... Okay, so, like... Can you explain to me what kind of scenario would you want these rape victims to talk about their rapes? Like, I'm trying to understand, like, did you want them to talk about the rapes that they experienced when they were in captivity and like, no actual way to talk about it other than doing what the terrorists that are holding them telling them to do? Like, it's not like they had their phones and they can just record. It's like, hey, I'm going live here in this cave that I'm being held in. So last night Mahmoud came and Hassan came and we did like a, you know, they want to try to do the, you know, forgot the name, Eiffel Tower. They tried to do the Eiffel Tower. Man, it took them a bit, but they finally got it. It only took like 3 hours of effort, right? Like, what do you want them to do? Of course, they're going to say it once they're inside of Israel, once they're protected, right? It's like, so at no circumstance would you be like, well, Israel just like told them what to do. Of course, you're going to say that. Like, of course you're going to say it, but it's like, there's no other circumstance where they can talk about it aside from when they are back in Israel. So it's like, it's kind of like a weird fucking argument where you're like, okay, Israel told them to say it, and the alternative for them to say it in any other situation is just not possible. So, yeah. Also, this is not the first time people are saying this, so it's like, you know, whatever.
The Israelis have a ton of video footage of October 7th, yet on this one point, which their propaganda has been harping on, they have nothing. So yeah, very succinctly, what Ethan actually did there is just like flash a bunch of headlines of these made-up bullshit Israeli witness testimonies with zero corroborating evidence at all, many of which have been inconsistent with later accountings.
I wonder how you can give evidence so long after the fact. Like, let's say if a woman did get raped, right? And she only reports it like 2 months after, which, by the way, this is way after 2 months. And she can only talk about like a few months after. And like, they're gonna do a test to see that, like, she actually got raped. And are they gonna find anything after 2 months? Like, shit heals, So it's like, what evidence are you looking for? Do you want them to like do like a physical examination right after the fact? It's like the witnesses are like watching a terrorist do that to a woman, and they're like, as soon as they're done, it's like, okay, everybody, hold up, everybody, hold up. Okay, listen, doctor, come on over. Can you test her real quick to see if she was actually raped? All right, write it down. All right, you're free to go. Okay, go about your way. Feel free to kidnap her. All right, we're done. Like, what kind of evidence do you fucking want? So fucking stupid. It's so crazy.
Only cropped up like 6 months later, conveniently, when Israel needed them as part of propaganda blitzes because they were spreading this mass rape narrative. And the only
Yeah, maybe they didn't want to fucking talk about it because they have PTSD. Like, there's so many ways, like, reasons that they wouldn't be talking about it. Oh, you think a woman just wants to talk about how she was, like, mass raped by a bunch of terrorists for the last however long she was held? Bro, I wouldn't be surprised if she locked herself in her room for like 2 months and just like ate in bed and never got up out of bed for just 2 months, and not wanting to see anyone or talk to anyone because she was just ashamed of herself. I'm surprised none of them actually like ended their own life just from like their experience. So like, oh, it took them 6 months to come out. What the fuck?
The reason that I can imagine Ethan Klein is harping on this so much, and why he takes so much exception to what Hassan said there, which is that even if there was rape, it would not justify genocide, is that Ethan Klein thinks that if there was rape, it would justify genocide. There's no other reason for him to misconstrue what was being said there so badly. And
No, that's actually not the case at all, because he's against genocide. He said it multiple times, and now you're just like, again, like, now you're just plain straight up just lying. The rape would not justify genocide. First of all, I don't believe there is a genocide, but fuck it, whatever. Even if there were, right? I can't keep saying it so many times. I think I made my point across. I don't believe there is genocide. If from now on I say there is a genocide, it means I'm talking in a hypothetical way. Okay. At no point does Ethan say rape is justified. He's just showing that there were rapes, and in the context of Hassan saying that he doesn't care if there were rapes, nor does he believe that there are rapes. That is pretty much the whole context of this whole thing. And this guy is just going off on like just fucking hypotheticals. A hypothetical of a hypothetical of a hypothetical.
Present this debunked mass rape narrative as if it's just self-evidently true without even trying to actually form an argument for it, provide evidence for it. It's fucking ridiculous.
Israelis, 40,000 people.
Again, I think the problem is Discount Destiny thinks that Ethan is like a debater who comes with like papers or whatever. He's not a debater. This is a content nuke video. Okay? He just shows you the content, shows you what the person said. Ethan barely tells you what to think in this, because Hassan is literally telling you what to think, right, about him, just based on like what he said. Now you can say it's like stuff is out of context, still failed to prove it, right? There are some hyperbole. There was a hyperbolic situation by Ethan, but other than that, it's all been Hassan incriminating himself. Realistically, like, Ethan didn't even offer much from his own words yet. He just showed stuff that Hassan said in certain situations. That's it. So he's going off on Ethan for like nothing yet.
People have died, and
way more than that.
Neighborhoods have been completely.
They haven't died. They have been massacred by Israel and Israelis. Say it correctly.
Which means they died. Yeah.
Now, let's frame this in the correct way. You notice how when he talks about supposed Jewish victims, he says like, these are like just little baby boy Jewish people massacred for no reason aside from their Jewish identity by the equivalent of the Nazis. When he talks about Palestinians, it's like 40,000 people have died. I'm not really sure how they've died. No perpetrator. I'm not going to name any
Never happened.
Perpetrator. They just sort of died, you know. I'm not going to tell you anything about them. Like Palestinians, I don't want to say that. I don't want to imply they were killed for being Palestinian. You notice the difference in framing? It's so clear.
Flattened during this war.
It's
and while
actually
we should
not
keep their plight at the top of our minds at all time, it also doesn't mean that.
Like, what do you want him to say exactly? Do you want him to say that's like they died by Israel? Like, I think like them dying is like kind of like self-explanatory. Obviously, like, everyone knows they didn't die out of nothing. They know that there's an active war happening in Gaza. When he talks about the people in Israel who died, that was like a terrorist attack. So like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a very false equivalency in a lot of his talking points, right? Because it's like the context of people dying in Gaza after October 7 is obviously there's a war going on at this point. The context of people dying on October 7, right, like the festival and whatever, is like that there's not an ongoing war and they were just massacred and raped. Meanwhile, people in Gaza are not getting massacred. Nobody's like walking into houses of like people having dinner, just fucking shoots them up and cuts them their throat and like makes like the mother watch as you kill their baby or whatever. None of this is happening. If they died from like a fucking bomb, it's very different from just walking up to a person and stabbing them to their face. Like that's, again, very, very false equivalency. But for this person, I'm going to assume, and again, maybe it's not a fair assumption, but I am going to assume he thinks that bombing people during war, after, okay, you want context? Okay, after sending flyers for, I think it's like a day in advance, maybe even more, for people to evacuate the area because they're going to be bombing that area. Specifically, if it's a building, they're going to tell the whole building to evacuate. It's like, oh, where are they going to evacuate? At least they're doing it, okay? It's not great. It's not a great situation, but at least they're doing it, right? And then when a bomb falls on that, a rocket falls on that and people die, is not really the same thing as people just walking to your house and stabbing you and making sure that you watch your loved ones die. Yeah, if you want context, I think there's like a very big false equivalency here. One is happening during wartime with plenty of warnings about where the impact will be, whereas the other one is done not in war times, where you're specifically targeting civilians. No, they're not Israelis. Israelis are not civilians. They all go to the army. Okay, sure. And babies and children, specifically because you're trying to cause, what's the word for it? Oh yeah, terror. So if you want context, I mean, like, there you have it.
We should disregard the lives of the Jewish people who are also affected.
He always changes it to Jewish people. He never says Israelis, always Jewish. Very crude, basic emotional manipulation. The point of this is so that...
But, okay. Are there... who are the majority of people who died on October 7th? Like, okay, sure, he shouldn't have said Jews. Okay, maybe he should have said Israelis. I think we can safely assume that the vast majority of people who would have been killed, who were killed on October 7th were Jewish because they were in Israel. Now, does it mean that Israel only has Jews? No. But we can probably safely assume that a bunch of them who died on October 7th were Jews. But for some reason, this really annoys him.
So that you feel that you can't respond to him because he said Jewish, and if you respond to him, you're going to get accused of anti-Semitism, right? Because he's reducing what are ethno-nationalist settler colonists to just simple Jewish people, vulnerable little Jewish people, trying to evoke the memory that most people have in their head of what a Jewish person is, which is like someone in a striped jumpsuit in a concentration camp in the Holocaust.
By this, even if they're suffering.
Bro, honestly, that is a fucking leap, bro. That is such a leap. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think that people would associate hearing Jew fucking 80 years later with World War II. Just like by somebody saying a sentence and using Jew instead of Israeli. Because it's like, you can, based on what he's saying, you can make the same leap if he said Israelis. They killed Israelis. And then the only difference is you make one more step. It's like Israelis, equals Jew, equals World War II, right? So you just have like the extra steps. So it's like this argument, again, is so fucked up. Like, I just can't, man.
Is not as great. Some of you may know that I'm an Israeli dual.
The suffering as a whole, the suffering on both sides is caused by Israel. Israel does settler colonialism. The settler colonialism causes backlash from its victims. So it's not like the difference here is scale. The difference is not scale. The difference is the whole context. The difference is the violence of the victims versus the violence of the victimizers. Bro. And that's what you are leaving out here entirely.
Citizen. My wife is Israeli. My kids are half Israeli. And
the fact that you're an Israeli dual citizen is fucking horrible. This is not something to your credit. This does not make you more credible. This does not make you more sympathetic. You are an American who chose to move to Israel. In Israel, there is a law called the Law of Return that gives automatic citizenship.
He's an American who married a woman that moved to to the States to marry him. Blind faith, by the way, like out of nowhere, they were just chatting online. This is the history of Ethan Klein Hill, as to my understanding. Right? I could be wrong about a few things, but to my understanding, he was in college at the time, whatever, and he was talking to Hila, who was, I believe at that time even in the army, when they started conversing. But she was a young Israeli woman, whatever, and then she had blind faith and moved to the States to be with him. Okay. Eventually they got married. He wasn't very successful at first, whatever, and it's like she told him, it's like, hey man, like if you're gonna be a fucking failure, then I'm out. I love you, but whatever. Anyways, irrelevant. And then he married her. They were living in the States for the longest time. But the thing is, Hila's family that she left lives in Israel. Ethan, I don't know what his family situation is. Seems to he never really talks about it, to my understanding. It's always, every time I heard them talk about family, it was Hila's side of the family. So he moved to Israel so that his wife can be closer to her family. What a fucking monster, bro. Evil human being, Ethan. How dare you try to make your wife happy? And by the way, they only lived there for 5 years. He doesn't live there anymore.
To who they consider to be ethnic or racial Jews, purely on an ethnic basis. So Ethan Klein, as an American, had the right to move to Israel and be given immediate citizenship. Meanwhile, there are millions.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like a good deal. Imagine like you are like, your parents are French, you were born in the States, and you just automatically get a French citizenship, and you get like dual citizenship just by being born in the States while your parents are like French, right? Not even like originally from French, they're just French like in their descent. Right? Sounds like a pretty good fucking deal,
Palestinians in Gaza, in West Bank,
don't be jealous,
who are actually from the land that Israel is currently occupying. They and their families were expelled from there. Are they allowed to return? No, actually, if they tried to return, they would get shot and killed. So Ethan Klein, an American, brings up...
Okay, so again, we are going back to the whole, they were expelled at a certain point in time. Okay, well, fine. Then the Jews, who used to be called Israelites, were also expelled from Judea, from the Kingdom of Israel. They were also expelled. So technically, they also have the right of return. Well, there you go, right? And it's like, oh, well, that's not a fair equation because this one happened recently, this one happened like way before. It's like, okay, cool. What would be a fair equation? Like these people were born in Europe while these people were born in not Palestine, so they have a right of return for what reason exactly? This argument of like the timeline is just so tired and so stupid in my opinion. Like, you lost a war. Be thankful that you even get to live. Most people who lost wars, they just massacre the other side. Not most, but like pretty fucking often.
Fact that he was allowed to return to a land that he has absolutely nothing to do with, and he was happy to go there. He was happy to be granted citizenship on.
No, he has something to do with it. He's Jewish. Anyways, I can't. I need to stop stopping him.
Homes area, all this nice little country called Israel that can only exist at the cost of Palestinians. And he was happy to go there and get all the advantages that this affords to him, that the accident of birth of him being Jewish affords to him at the expense of Palestinians. And he brings this up as if it's a positive thing that makes him more credible. It's the exact opposite. That you are someone who you weren't even born in Israel. You chose to move there. That makes you less than credible. That means that anyone analyzing what you have to say should always be on guard and always be incredibly suspicious of your motivations. Because at the end of the day, you are the equivalent of someone who moved from the USA to Nazi Germany to go and colonize Poland. That is you.
My entire in-law is Israeli.
And
I lived there for...
by the way, what's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? Yeah, Nazis are evil. Okay, let's take away the fact that Nazis are evil for a second. Let's say it was let's say you are a Russian who lives in the US and you move back to Russia because you believe that Russia is in the right? Let's say that there's, I don't know, take any conflict in the world that is happening where both sides are not necessarily evil, right? And they both have justification. And then you, as somebody who has some heritage from a certain place, you live in a completely different area, you choose to move to the place that you support. What is wrong with it? What is wrong with patriotism? I just don't understand this logic. Or is his whole point that it's well, Nazis are evil, so if you support Nazis, you are evil? And it's okay, but again, Nazis are evil from our perspective. From the Nazi perspective, they weren't evil, right? So it's like evil is very subjective in this case, right? Every bad guy has a sob story, whatever, right? However that goes. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like this is such again a very very weak argument.
For 5 years, and I grew.
And by the way, not only a weak argument, an emotional one, because he's trying to keep equating Jews to Nazi Germany.
With the country.
Sorry. I'm gonna pause again. I'm so sorry. Not Jews, Israelis. He's trying to equate Israelis to Nazi Germany.
Connection to an ethno-state. That's a bad thing about you. You shouldn't think that. That's bad.
Issues between me, Hassan, and his community was that I'm in favor of a two-state solution, while they are in favor of a one-state solution. Their theory is that after the October.
So you are in favor of a two-state solution. You are in favor of the existence of Israel. What is Israel? Israel is an ethno-state for one ethnicity that came into being only as the result of the mass expulsion and killing of people who were there beforehand, as much as they thought they could get away with. Therefore, okay, so you support that. You are an ethno-nationalist.
The whole argument is already false.
Because that's what Zionism is. And the fact that you want to leave Palestinians with crumbs and keep them out of the land that you and yours stole from them for their own ethnic benefits on an ethnic basis, and try to satiate them by giving them their own like Bantustan off to the side or whatever, while they're still barred from returning to the homes and land that you stole from them. Again, on an ethnic basis, in the name of maintaining a Jewish majority and Jewish ethnic privilege in Israel. I don't know how you bring that up so simply like that, like it's nothing. That you're in favor of a two-state solution.
Here's another thing that I always find this very interesting, where people are like condemning Israel, which is a Jewish state, sure, and they are evil for, based on what he's saying, they are trying to maintain a majority of the population Jewish, as if this is like a bad thing. How many non-Chinese Congress, whatever they have, government officials, like in high positions, do they have that are not Chinese? Like how many government officials in China do you have that are not Chinese? How many non-Russian government officials, and again I'm talking about high officials, do you have in Russia that are not Russian? How many like America is like one of the only places where you have basically the Democrats, majority of them not really American, right? Because they identify as like Latina, identify as this, identify as that, and the first Chinese, and it's like, bro, no, you're American, but they don't identify as American because apparently it's a bad thing to identify as American, okay? But it's like only Western places, which by the way he hates, have this idea that you don't need to have. Well, I mean, it's getting turned back now, but it's like you don't need to have a majority of your own population as the main population. But then it's like, aren't you literally advocating for what Carlson Tucker saying about Great Replacement theory? Which again, not gonna go into is it right or wrong, but the whole point is that it's like the main population of the location of the country, of the state or whatever, is being replaced by other ethnicities that don't share the values of the country, right? Because what would happen if you have, let's say, a majority Arabs in Israel, right? And then they become the majority in the Knesset, and then they become the prime minister, and then they become also the president, right? And it's like, what would happen at that point, right? Would Jews still have a place to live, like, and again, this is a serious question. I'm not saying that they would be evil, but I'm saying that it's like, can you expand to such an extent, whereas like the Israel, which was a safe haven for Jews worldwide, can you maintain its identity if the majority and then the vast majority, because like it will just keep increasing, like that is the idea, right? Can you still maintain the identity of Israel? Can you still maintain the identity of America if you start having illegal immigrants in Congress who and I'm literally saying illegal immigrants, okay? If your president literally came to America in the last 10 years, right? Do you think he shares American values necessarily? He could, but necessarily, right? So like this idea of like it's evil to have an ethnic majority in a country that the country was built for that ethnic majority is evil is really fucking weird. Now I'm not saying that this means that like, well, if they start having too many kids, we need to like annihilate them. No. But and it's like that is a solution for something else, right? It's like they can, I don't know, like promote fucking Jews having more kids. But it is a serious problem, right? It is a serious long-term problem, because what would happen is you can literally have a culture that just, peacefully immigrates to a country, and over generations, in their culture, it's common to have like 10 babies, whereas like this culture is just, the average is like 1.5 to 2 babies in a family. 10 generations forward, that is not the same country at all. Is it better? Is it worse? Doesn't matter. But the whole point is that you are replacing completely the demographic of a country, simply because in your culture it might be more okay to use women as just childbearing cows, right? Or whatever. I don't know the term. What is the term where it's like you use women just as a breeding tool? Right? And there are cultures that basically do that. The woman is literally just there to bear children and to clean when she's not bearing children. Like, hello, this does happen. This is a thing in the world, right? So when you get enough of those people, how many their generations down the line do women just stop having rights? Because the majority of the people would be that coming from that culture, and that is what they teach their kids at home, right? Plus with the freedom, and I believe this is a good freedom, of being able to homeschool and stuff like that, they can just literally brainwash, technically, or however you want to call it, their kids to believe that their culture is the correct one, and then they would go and arrange marriages between two families, and then they have 10 kids, and it's like if you have 10 kids mixing with another 10 kids, that's like what, 100 kids instantly? Is it 100 kids instantly? If each person's going to have 10, if each couple is going to have 10, yeah, it's 100 kids within a generation. Then it's 1,000 within 2 generations. Then it's like 10,000 the next and the next, and like it just keeps multiplying by 10, right? 4 or 5 generations, you're in 1 million people, right? And again, obviously, this is like a massive fucking hypothesis of like a non-realistic scenario. Right? I'm just giving you like numbers that, like, if you think about, like, it sounds pretty bad in the very long term. Not even very, but like 100 to 200 years down the line, right? You're kind of like, what are we doing? Like, where's the population that belongs to this? This is like literally like a peaceful takeover of a population.
For on any reason aside from pure pragmatism, like conciliatory pragmatism. Like Norman Finkelstein's position is not like, I think that we should have a Jewish state because we need to maintain a Jewish majority, blah, blah, blah. His position is more, end the suffering of Palestinians at the hands of Israel. Try to get
again, man, I hate that I have to pause so much, but he talks so much nonsense. We need to have a Jewish state because Jews have been prosecuted worldwide every time they were not in the government, right? Like, they've been moved from place to place. They've been literally like gypsies moving place to place, bro. That's nothing. Jews are the OG gypsies, okay, without the stealing and shit, right? Maybe with the stealing. I mean, let's be real. I am Jewish. I know the stereotypes. There's some really funny Jewish jokes though about them being thieves. Anyways, and cheap. But the whole point is that like Jews have been after they've been kicked out of their land, Judea and the kingdom of Israel, right? They have been nomads, right? They've been just kicked out from everywhere, all over the world. Now you can say it's like, oh well, maybe they deserve, maybe they're evil people. It doesn't matter. Like, that's not the argument right now. The whole point is that they have been nomads for 3,000 years or whatever. I don't remember how long it's been. Right. And now they have a place that they can call their own and their home. And you can believe that it is at the expense of somebody. But you know what? Maybe it's their turn. They suffered they were in exile for 3,000 years, walking in circles between nations, between countries, between empires. And now they finally have a chance to call something their home. Is it really that evil for them to have a place to live? I don't know, man. I feel like that's kind of like stupid.
The solution as possible to that end. Ethan's position, though, Ethan's position is basically like the Palestinian enemies cannot be trusted. The people who we expelled, who we've massacred, who we've genocided, they hate us. Ergo, we need to keep excluding them.
7th attack, Israel should just dissolve its borders
I'm
and
not
let Hamas enter
it's
Israel.
like I have again something to say about
it's so
it.
weird how he frames this as like Hamas. Like all Palestinians are Hamas, I guess.
No,
But like, he
he doesn't say
frames
that.
like the process of moving towards a one-state solution as if like it would not be a process at all. As if like one day Israel would just like say, okay, we're dissolving our state, it's gone, goodbye, and then suddenly like all of the evil Hamas Palestinians at the border are all just flooding with their AK-47s.
God, why do I have to pause so much? Why does he talk so much nonsense, bro? Yes, that is the whole point. That is what people are saying. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be freed. Yes, what do you think they want? They want an instant... Fucking Hamas Spiker is saying it, that like they need to like dissolve the fucking government. Like, he corrected himself later and said that it's like Bibi needs to resign, yada, yada, yada. But let's be real. If they could have their way, it would literally be dissolve the government completely, Jews are no longer in power, and give the power to like just a random Palestinian person who is already in power for the Palestinian people, right? Like put their prophet as the fucking prime minister of Israel. That is literally what they want. You think that like anyone is actually thinking about the process? You think people who are screaming Palestine will be free from the river to the sea think about a process for this to change? Bro, they want it done yesterday. So dishonest, man.
And their innate hatred for Jews, and they just take it all over. I don't think this man is sentient. I don't think he knows what's going on around him at all. His framing of the one solution is genuinely insane. Like, he seems to think it would not be like the end result of like a long process of negotiations, of like smaller settlements preceding it. He doesn't think it would possibly be anything gradual. He just thinks it's immediately like Hamas being like, okay, guys, let's go. Here's our chance. Kill them all. And he said Hassan has the political understanding of a child. I mean, Hassan may, but Ethan certainly does.
In response to October 7th.
Instead of indiscriminately bombing Gaza, I think the first...
This point, when what he said here, oh my god, man, how am I an hour into the video almost, and like I moved like maybe 12 minutes forward? It is crazy how much nonsense this guy talks.
He's genuinely insane. Like, he seems to think it would not be like the end result of like a long process of negotiations.
That's not what they want. That's not what the Palestinian, like people who support Palestine, want. They want an instant eradication of Israel. Yes, that is exactly what they want. They don't want a peaceful transition of power. They want Israel to just cease it. All government of Israel to just cease to exist. Not even talking about like death of people. I'm talking about like the government of Israel needs to like stop its function so that Palestinians can take over the government. That is literally what they want. Like instantaneously, like just sign it in the paper. It's like from now on the power is Palestinian. That is actually what they want. That is actually what Hamas want. Technically Hamas and Hamas Spiker want.
Of like smaller settlements preceding it. He doesn't think it would possibly be anything gradual. He just thinks it's immediately like Hamas being like, okay, guys, let's go. Here's our chance. Kill them all. And he said
that is literally in their charter. If Hamas had the chance, that is exactly what they would do. And you know what? Okay. Let's say I'm biased. I am biased, okay? Show me proof that would give me the benefit of the doubt to think that they wouldn't do it. Show me any proof in the past that Hamas would not immediately just kill all the Jews if they had the chance. Like anything. Show me something that they say, something that they do, especially do, because words are cheap. Actions speak louder than words. Show me anything at all that shows that Hamas would not just instantly eradicate every Jew in Israel, and fuck it. If they could, they would eradicate every Jew in the world. Why? Because it's literally in their charter. This is what they pray for at like 5 a.m. When the mosque or whatever is ringing its bell, this is what they're praying for. Curse upon the Jew. Oh, it's like, oh no, that's not the Hamas one. That's the Houthi one. Man, you think it's that different? It's pretty much, it's the fucking same.
Hassan has the political understanding of a child. I mean, Hassan may, but Ethan certainly does.
In response to October 7th.
Instead of indiscriminately bombing Gaza, I think the first thing to do in that situation would be to dismantle the government in the way that it existed, like get Netanyahu out of power.
Okay. So you're saying Israel, in response... Hold on, dude. You're saying in response to this terrorist attack, Israel should have dismantled their own government.
The first set of actions would be to democratically take...
Here's what Israel does in response to October 7th. Nothing. Israel has no right to do fucking anything. This is Ethan trying to justify the Gaza genocide, by the way. He's trying to justify it quite simply. He thinks that Israel's like had the right to some sort of response. Israel has the right to nothing. Nothing. Just like the Nazis had no right to do anything to the resistance fighters who attack them, even if the resistance may have...
Bro. Just sit there and die in peace. Like, just sit there and die. You have no choice. There's no freedom. There's no free will, bro. You as a person, doesn't matter. You are a Nazi. You deserve to die. And don't fight back. Your beliefs don't matter because you are wrong, so you deserve death. I mean, bro, I can't believe somebody thinks this guy is, like, making any good fucking points. Holy fuck, man. Holy fuck. Imagine, like, going to prison and telling, like, all the prisoners, it's like, you guys are no longer human beings and we can do whatever the fuck we want with you. Why? Because you committed a crime. You commit a crime, so we can just abuse you all we want. We can beat the shit out of you whenever we want. You are no longer people. You're just walking punching bags. And if you dare complain, we'll just kill you. Right? Because in his case, he's thinking everyone in Israel is a criminal, right? So, you know, is it a false equivalency? Maybe in the scale of things. But, like, that is pretty much what he's saying. You're a criminal. You have no rights. Why? Because you're a criminal. This guy believes in human rights, right?
Attack civilians or gone too far or whatever. They had no right to anything. Even talks about this like we need to give him some sort of response, a loud response that Israel was allowed to do, as if Israel itself is not entirely illegitimate. It is. It is entirely illegitimate.
Doesn't matter,
yes.
bro.
The problem is...
Bro, even... Okay. The whole idea of, like, even if Israel is illegitimate, okay... Let's say you commit, like, you have a fraudulent fraud, like you commit a fraud, like you create a document that is, like a fraudulent, that you own, like, a certain property and, like, it is fraud, and, and, like, you are caught. You still have the right to fight it out in court. You're gonna lose, but you still have some rights, even though you are the one who committed the fraud. But he's saying that it's like because Israel just is not, like doesn't have the right to exist. And even though they do exist, but because they don't have the right to exist, they should just sit there and just like do nothing because they have no rights. It is, man, I don't know, man. Like this guy's... I honestly thought Hassan was crazy. I'm pretty sure this guy is worse. I am fairly certain this guy is worse. Which is hard to say. That, like, man, that is a whole new level. I never thought anyone would be, like, I would see anyone who's, like, worse than Hassan specifically about this topic. I don't know about his other topics where he talks about, but about this topic, I honestly believe he doesn't think Jews, sorry, not Jews, Israelis are actually people. I don't think he believes Israelis are people. I think he believes they are less than people. They're like, well, the whole Borat thing? Oh my god, this is the best. This is the best. Fuck, where is it? Oh my god. A Borat hierarchy. Is that the one? God, that is so good. Borat, man, bear, cow, pig, woman. God, I wish I could find it. Is the one? Can't be, right? No. Fuck. Anyway, so there's this Borat clip. I think this is in the first Borat movie. Fucking hilarious movie. I love it. And he's like, and somebody asks him like the rights of like people in Kazakhstan or whatever where he comes from, and he's like, man, bear, camel, pig, cow, dog, cat, horse, little khartsuli, and then woman or some shit like that. So, and in his case, it's like instead of woman, it's the Jew. sorry, the Israeli.
that Israel's been at war with its neighbors for 70 plus years, and it makes a lot of sense that there'd be some distrust there.
He's justifying Israel attacking and massacring Palestinians and all of its neighbors. What Israel does is
that's not exactly what he did, but
okay. Particularly Palestinians and Lebanese. By saying that Israel has been under attack, reframing victim and defender. Israel is not under attack. Israel is a genocidal settler colonial project that can only exist at the expense of others, that has been victimizing its neighbors even before it even existed. And he's trying to frame Israel as a victim itself.
Is it really insane to think that Jews, as an ethnic minority in Israel, would not be safe? After all, Israel is a country of refugees.
No, it's not. Are you a refugee, Ethan? What were you fleeing from?
The Jews didn't come from Europe after the Holocaust. They came from the surrounding Arab countries that expelled them in massive amounts following the 1948 war. In fact,
what war? What else happened? What else happened, Ethan?
There was more Jews displaced than Palestinians during the Nakba.
What else happened?
1 million Jews.
Absolutely, completely untrue.
All of these surrounding Arab countries had...
You notice how Ethan completely ignores everything about the founding of Israel. One, who was there beforehand? Who expelled those Palestinians? If this is a nation...
Again, that's not the argument he's making. That he's not talking about the conditions of why Israel was formed. He's talking about it was formed. That is a fact. Not the conditions that they were formed. The fact is, Israel was formed in 1948, and there was a war because of it. They were given the land by whoever owned the land, which was the UK, but the UK gave it to the UN to distribute however they saw fit. And by the way they distributed it was extremely against the Israelis, like the Jews. Okay, but whatever. It doesn't matter. The whole point he's making is that it happened. Going into like how it happened, whatever, is kind of irrelevant to the point that Ethan is about to make. But 1948, Israel came into being. That's a fact. It is what it is.
Formed by refugees. Why exactly were these people expelled before these Jews were supposedly expelled, as you put it? Were the people there all refugees, Ethan? No, this was a long-planned expulsion. This was a long-planned settler colonial project. I've gone over this a million times before. I fucking hate reiterating all of this. Here are videos online where you can look into this. This is a video about how Israel was planned as a settler colonial project the whole time, from the very beginning. Israelis are not indigenous. Check it out on my channel. Wait, I'll let him finish what he's saying here, and then I'm going to play another clip from a video that I've already responded to him making this talking point before.
Vibrant Jewish communities in huge number, hundreds of thousands. Now, if you look at them,
he's trying to reverse victim and offender. That's what you always need to remember throughout this whole video. His entire thing is reversing victim and offender, changing the Israelis to the victims, and those who rightfully fight against them into being their victimizers.
You're looking at close to, if not literally, 0 Jews left in these countries.
Just to give you an idea, here's a visual representation of the Jewish refugees after 1948.
Jewish refugees after 1948 who fled violence and discrimination in their homelands. That's this framing.
Morocco had 265,000 Jews. Now it has 2,000.
Okay, let's look at what happened in Morocco. This is from my previous video responding to Ethan Klein. I'm just going to let him speak and then I will play my response.
Algeria had 140,000. Now it has about 50. Iraq had 150,000 Jews. Now 10. And I want to give a special shout out to my boy over in Afghanistan. One known Jew. We know him. We love him. He's the one Afghan Jew.
They were forced to leave their homes, their lives, their property, and migrate to the only place in the world that would accept them, which was...
That's total bullshit. Absolute and total bullshit. Remember what I said about Ethan Klein ignoring people who have already responded to him and debunked him? This is a great example of that.
If it wasn't for anti-Semitism, most of them probably still live in the Arab world.
I mean, yeah, a lot of those families had to leave everything behind. Just get up and go.
Total annihilation.
I mean, just...
Okay, that is simply not true. But as I went over earlier, where Israel Zionists always saw anti-Semitism as a boon for themselves, you can see there that Ethan and Hila at least kind of acknowledge this, which I guess is okay, good on them, but they don't acknowledge the key role that Israel played in intentionally stoking that anti-Semitism in the Arab world, and the fact that in many cases, they were not so simply expulsions. There was literally the Israelis making deals with these countries to get them to expel their Jews to Israel. Firstly, again, it's important to note that what's happened to Jews in these countries, in these Arab countries, is obviously not legitimate. It was obviously wrong and illegal. However, it was a reaction to the Israeli expulsion of Palestinians. It was a reaction to a unilateral Israeli declaration of independence, followed by...
Okay, so, I mean, hopefully he provides the proof and the context. The context is there. But he's saying that even though it was wrong, it is justified because the Jews that live in these Arab countries that have nothing to do with actual Israel, it was okay, in a sense, to an extent, to kick them out of the Arab countries because the Israelis kicked out the Palestinians. That is his argument, right? I'm not hearing things. His argument is literally that it is unlawful and not nice, but understandable that they kicked them out because Israel, that again has nothing to do with the people who live in the Arab countries, okay? Because Israel is the one who made the decision that Jews can come and get citizenship, but it has nothing to do with the people who live in completely different countries. Like that decision, they weren't a part of making that decision. They have absolutely nothing except the fact that they're Jewish. And you're categorizing the actions of Israel, whatever Israel did, and you're blaming it on the Jewish people who lived in different countries. Okay, just to make sure.
By expansion, an expansion which has continued ever since. Something which the people who were there beforehand had never agreed to, and which was obviously...
We have a very different understanding of expansion, because last I checked, after the... Was it 6-Day War, was it? Fuck, I don't remember all my, I wasn't the best student. Just memorized the stuff for tests. I didn't really care about it. But I think it was the 6-Day War, where I'm not going to say who started it, and I don't want to get into the details. I don't care, right? So Israel took over Mount Sinai, took over a bunch of fucking territories all over, and then throughout peace agreements, they were giving it back. So to say that Israel is adamant about its expansion kind of doesn't make sense. If they gave away, honestly, just Mount Sinai, almost 50% of the whole of Israeli territory. So it's why would they give that back? That doesn't make any sense. But they did. They gave back the West Bank. I mean, yeah, there are problems with the West Bank for sure. Settlers, bad people, okay? But they gave it back. They gave back Gaza. So it's that is a very weird way to expand. Which, by the way, Gaza is probably the dumbest thing they ever did, because it's such a bad strategic position to be in. Gaza Strip stretches up so far into it's just the length of Gaza is just so, what do you call it, vertically long, right? That they can hit so many different areas of Israel. It's just such a bad position. Why would you even give that, just from a strategic point of view? That is probably the dumbest thing they could ever do. Give them more of the north, fuck it. But why would you give them Gaza? That is just kind of stupid.
Unjust to expect them to accept. Israel knew that there would be an adverse reaction against this in those countries, against the Jews who were there. They had been warned of it, yet they did it anyway. For two, they present this as some sort of immediate expulsion.
Okay. So basically what I said is true. Israel planned this, okay? They are fucking masterminds. They knew that when they expelled the Palestinians, which, by the way, at this point, they already did, because based on him, right? 1948, they already expelled the fuckers, right? They knew that because of their actions, all the Arab nations would expel their Jews. That was the plan all along. They're that smart. In many aspects, I'd have to say thank you if you think Jews are really that fucking smart and cunning. That is next level. Maybe he doesn't look down on the Jew. Maybe he looks up to the Jew, and because his neck hurts from looking up so high onto the Jew, he gets really, really cranky because the neck is hurting.
But it simply was not that. Jews leaving these countries happened over the course of the next 10 to 20 years. It was not okay, you do this to the Palestinians.
He didn't say that.
In many cases, these countries tried desperately to keep Jews there. They banned immigration of Jews to Israel. They banned immigration of Jews. The Jewish Agency, one of the most important Israeli/Zionist organizations in the entire world, struck a deal with the French governors of Morocco, because Morocco was still a French colony at this time, to have 100,000 Jews forcibly deported to Israel. Many of them did not want to leave. They were essentially forced on...
Hold up. under French colonial occupation at the time, so the Jewish Agency had to strike an agreement with the French governor of Morocco to bring about the emigration of Moroccan Jews who had to face horrific conditions on Israeli ships, according to Segev and other sources. Some of the 100,000 Jews who left, according to the Jewish Agency emissary, had to be virtually taken aboard the ships by force. Okay.
Forcibly deported to Israel. Many of them did not want to leave. They were essentially forced onto the boat. That's not an Arab expulsion of Jews.
I'm trying to understand the logic here of Israel at that moment in time having the power to dictate to all the Arab nations that they need to expel the Jews to bring them to Israel. Like, bro, how much power do you think Israel had at that time that they can influence the whole area to do what they wanted? Especially when everyone in that area didn't like them. But somehow they had the power to force them to do it. That is incredible.
It is an Israeli-French expulsion of Jews. Remember what he said about Morocco as his first point there? Great example of Ethan lying, huh? Leaving out context entirely. Israel did this to Morocco. So this narrative that there was like this immediate unified expulsion is simply wrong. Every one of these countries was a different country. They reacted in different ways. Some of them did not want the Jews to leave, and Israel did everything possible to try to force them to leave. One interesting thing, for example, is that the top Jewish emissary in Yemen attempted to get the Yemenis to expel their Jews, and Israeli agents carried out false flag terrorist attacks across the Arab world, especially in Iraq, in an effort to convince the Jews there that anti-Semitism in their country had made their presence untenable. The Iraqi government did not want their Jews to leave. They outlawed Jewish immigration, and the Israeli government, with help from their American and British allies, pressured the Iraqi government to rescind that law, which they duly did. Israel did everything possible to force an exodus of Jews from the Arab world. For Israelis 7-ish decades later to now weaponize this is cynical. It was certainly...
Okay, so, you know what? Let's assume everything he says is right. Let's assume everything he says is right. So you're actually proving it further that all of these Jews who were kicked out, right? Let's say Israel caused it, right? Let's fuck it. Israel caused them to be kicked out, okay? But so you're saying those people are not victims because they're Jewish, because now they're in Israel, so they're not victims. I feel like you just proved the exact opposite. I feel like a lot of the Israelis then are also victims. Just like if we take everything he said as real. Obviously, I don't know the source. Again, it doesn't really matter, like, because I already said what my point is about, like, who owns the territory, so it doesn't, I don't care. But based on what he's saying, a lot of the Jews are also victims. A lot of the Israelis are also victims. I'm just saying.
A tragedy, but it was entirely caused by Israel out of their own disregard for Jewish safety in the rest of the world and their own complete disregard for the autonomy of individual Jews, individual Jewish communities, individual Jewish families elsewhere. They considered them as little more than tools for their colonial project and did everything possible to make their lives in their Middle Eastern homes, aside from Palestine, untenable. An extremely important thing as well is that Palestinians have always been conscious of this. Palestinian negotiators have always been adamant that Israel needs...
I'm going to end on this. I'm going to watch the rest on like part 3. But it boggles the mind that he thinks that Israel at those times was this capable. He literally thinks Israel, a brand newly formed country with minimal resources, with vast majority of people being fucking farmers. And in those times, they were so capable at basically foreign affairs and espionage, right? Causing terror attacks all across the neighboring Arab nations, to the point that all of them kicked out all of their Jews. And he actually believes that Israel was this capable. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like, and these are countries that have been there for a very long time, right? But Israel was that capable when it was literally just formed. Literally. And it's like, it's all like fucking land that you need to work on. There was like no fucking roads, right? There's like almost no fucking proper housing, no actual cities. Like, I mean, you had some cities, sure, like you had encampments. Realistically, if you compare that to cities now, there's like nothing there, right? Literally a land you need to cultivate. And he says that these guys were so fucking capable. Honestly, if anything, props to Israel. They were so capable at those times to be able to cause all of the Arab nations to kick out their Jewish population. That is incredible. It's incredible that he believes it, but it's also incredible if it actually happened. Honestly, kudos to Israel. Anyways, I'm gonna end part 3 here. Discount Destiny, bro. I still have 3 hours of this lunatic, and man, that is crazy. Like I said, I'm gonna finish this like maybe next month. This guy is fucking insane. Oh, I can't believe I made it through another 20 minutes of him. Holy fuck, man. He really looks like Destiny here. Like, you can see like the jaw is what's doing the talking. Like, nothing here moves and just the jaw bouncing around. Anyways, no. Fuck, man. I'm not trying to like diss his looks. I think he looks way better than me. Okay, but I just find really fun that he and Destiny have a very same jaw movement. Anyways, I'm out. See you later. Bye.